What is fantasy? Such a word can take many forms. When most think of fantasy, we picture adventures, elves, dwarves, dragons, vast landscapes and cities. There are many anime that showcase this, but I feel only one actually gets it right. So take a stool, my fellow adventurers, kick your feet up, and rejoice with a nice mug of mead, and let me spin you a tale of beauty, adventure, and heroism. This is why Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon is the best fantasy anime. I firstly want to state that if you haven't watched this show, based solely on its title, then you fall in the line with the generic quotes. Don't read a book by its cover. You gotta read the back, though. That's where the good shit is. Anyways, Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, or Danmachi, is an anime series based on the light novel series created by, and I'm totally gonna pronounce this guy's name wrong, Fujino Omori. The story follows the exploits of Belcanau, a 14-year-old solo adventurer under the goddess Hestia, as he aspires to become a hero. The first thing I want to note about what makes Danmachi the best fantasy anime is that it understands what a fantasy must be. Fun. And part of that fun element is the world must feel just as unique. Take some media like Star Wars. Half the reason most enjoy that IP is because the world has so much going on within it. Fantasy is a genre of escapism. It's the sole reason we have tons of isekai stories. And the feeling of leaving our everyday life to go on an adventure is a fun idea. And Danmachi pictures a world that is not just equally parts fun with that adventure, but also shows that, much like the real world, a fantasy world can have its dangers and be exciting as well. Danmachi really plays with its world-building elements to help strengthen its story that most fantasy anime do not explore, or they explore to the bare minimum. Just look at how many races they have shown within this world. Amazonas, bows, bulls, cat people, sheenthrope, dark elf, dwarf, elf, high elf, gods, half dwarf, half elf, half commune, bunny, human, commune, raccoon, renard, sheep, spirit, were-tiger, werewolf, xenos. Now, granted, they refer to most of the animal races in the demi-human category, but unlike most other animes, they don't treat them as one race. It actually feels that there is a difference and a respect for a character's different features. Catfolk feel as if they're their own race in the show. And the same goes for the others as well. And that's what makes the world so colorful and what most people see fantasy worlds as. Danmachi's creator even took the time to develop a new written type for this world, so that it didn't have that generic fantasy world with Japanese writing you see in every isekai. Throughout the course of the show, every moment you can tell that this world has many characters you want to learn more about, and even want to learn more about the general world they live in, outside of the wall of Orario. That's right, this anime does take place in a single city, but that city element is so well crafted it doesn't feel like being stuck to one place for a whole anime. It feels as if the city itself acts as its own character, which helps strengthen the anime story. Another element that makes Danmachi so great is that, unlike series like Berserk, which a majority of the time we're thrown into a world that is cold-hearted and dark, and it's okay to have a dark anime, but again, what makes a great fantasy is that you have a balance of equal amount of enjoyment and darker moments. Danmachi balances us, and as the world is expansive and fun, it can have really dark moments to the show, like God's kidnapping by force, prostitution, murder, alcoholism, and even rape. Before you ask, yes, this is the same show with this title. Now, These dark moments shouldn't shy you away from the show. In fact, these challenges are what makes Belle's adventure that more enjoyable. Because one has to understand, this show is not about an adventurer. This show is about what it means to be a hero. That's right, move over there, My Hero Academia. Now, I want to talk about the fan service. Despite the OVAs, there is really not a whole lot of fan service in the show. And I will fully admit that the fan service in the show is done tastefully. Clothing rips when characters are in battle. People take baths. That's a normal thing. Some even take the traditional Japanese baths. And yes, god and goddess characters wear clothes that highlight the features of their bodies. But hello, they're gods. That's a part of the character design. Especially the Greek gods like Hestia. Like, history there, guys. The Greeks, they're very, look. Though there are scenes in the show that have fan service as gags once in a while, it's a way to play off the title and help us break away from some of the darker moments within the show. In live action films, nudity can be seen as an art, and I fully believe that DanMachi does indeed deserve that same respect, in terms that nudity a lot of times in the show is done with the mindset of art in mind. The final element that makes DanMachi the best fantasy is the visuals and the soundtrack. A fantasy world should be filled with spectacle, and the animation pulls this off in great beauty. The animation and colors really make the characters and the world pop from the screen. And let's not forget the fight scenes. Each fight in this series is exciting and keeps you at the edge of your seat. The fact that our main character wields a dagger rather than the generic sword even heightens the intensity to the fight scenes. And the music tops it off perfectly. I want music that makes me feel just as powerful as my main character does. I want to feel inspired by the motivation a lot of these characters display. Overall, most fantasy anime fail to incorporate 1 to 2 of these elements. Take for instance Black Clover. I really enjoy Black Clover, and it has a lot of elements that I believe definitely make it a strong fantasy anime. But I feel that they are shy on the music at times. I can listen to the score to DanMachi on repeat, and without visuals, it pumps me up. But the Black Clover, I really need the visuals to get that feeling, because the score only fits with the visuals, where again, DanMachi made sure that the music was just badass enough it can be listened solo without the help with visuals. I feel that there's no element from world building, visuals, story, and score that is being prioritized over the other. Every department is giving it their all to make sure this anime is definitely one of a kind. And as a lover of the fantasy genre, DanMachi is truly the ideal fantasy. I honestly haven't found an equal to it. Now, it's definitely up to your interpretation as the viewer. I just hope this video encourages those to witness how amazing this anime is. And if you've seen DanMachi, leave down in the comments on what you thought of the show. DanMachi to me is more than an anime. It's the sole reason I got heavily into anime, and the reason I thought up the idea for this channel. So, to help to keep this dream alive, as Belle aspires to be a hero, I want to aspire for our channel to be one of the biggest anime-themed content on this platform. So please, keep the anime dream alive. Like and subscribe, and check out our Twitter and Patreon in the link below. To all my fellow adventurers, strive for greatness.
Thank you for watching! If you're not subscribed, be sure to do so by clicking here. If you are subscribed, we thank you for keeping the anime dream alive. Be sure to check out our other content here and here. For even more content, be sure to check out the rest of our channel, and be sure to follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description below. I'm Felicia, and I'll see you next time.